The big reveal today has gone off, the big stream happened, and we now know that our FLC lord for the Lizardmen is Tiktak'to, the slimy, lovely skink of the skies. Now, a lot of people are voicing a lot of issues with this, a lot of discontent. That sounds weird, but a lot of, I guess, just disappointment. You know, it's not Nakai, it's not Gorok, it's not any of the other maybe a little bit more prolific Lizardman characters. And today we're going to discuss what was revealed as far as some of the things from the stream, some of the stuff from the Steam page, as far as the starting locations of both Mortal Empires and the Vortex campaign, as well as maybe some of the insight into the new rights. So join me today. We'll talk about that, and I'll close the video out with my opinion of what I think of the new FLC. And we'll start in, probably logically, with the skill array that Creative Assembly released earlier today. Now, from what we can see here, we are going to go through some of the skills, and obviously we're going to expand upon those when we talk about the stream that both Wheels and Tom did earlier today. Some of these will be expanded out to their exact specifications as far as what kind of skills they benefit, what kind of their overall benefits are, as far as adding stuff to the campaign, so on and so forth. But the first one here is the Eye in the Heavens. Tiktak'to floods the skies with deadly pterodons and ripperdactyls for ultimate air superiority. So we're probably going to see something along the lines of a recruitment cost reduction, rank increase, benefits overall for having both pterodons and ripperdactyls, which is going to be fun. It's going to be a different way to play the Lizardmen. You know, with Krokgar, you have very heavy Saurus play. With Mazdamundi, you have a very heavy magic play, and as we will kind of, I guess, see with 10 and 1, how he really plays into things is probably going to be very heavily based off of red-crested skinks and the such. Moving down, though, we have Precision Strike. With a swift and deadly maneuver, the Master of the Skies can utilize the speed of his forces to cut down foes whilst they are still preparing their defenses. We'll go into that once we see the stream breakdown. Aerial superiority. Tiktak'to leads only the most capable riders into battle. With great speed and strength, they overwhelm the opposition under a hail of fire and swooping charges. Might be hinting maybe towards the portion of his skill set that actually allows for all skink characters to automatically start off with their pterodon mounts, which is actually a very cool ability. I think pterodons are like the level... Oh man, I think it's level 6. I can't remember off the top of my head. So you're skipping a lot of levels to get access to, basically, if you think about it, immunity for your skink. When we'll talk about a starting location, but really what that's really going to be great for him is the ability to stay out of combat a lot easier by being way more mobile on the campaign map. Because Tiktak'to, as we're going to see, he's not like a Krokgar in the sense that he's not the most completely durable, tanky character here. He is a skink, and as a result, he is going to be a little bit more of a papery, more of a glass cannon type character. And that's going to be represented in his profile, which we'll go over towards the later portions of this little film here. We also have Drop Sphere of Teapot, a deadly magical payload dropped from the skies onto unsuspecting foes that can crush the enemy and break their stride. So even a more souped up version of the typical rock drop. Blade of the Ancient Skies and Mask of the Heavens we'll both talk about once we get to their respective portions in the stream. That they showed those abilities and those items, so we can actually discuss some of their actual stat lines. So that'll be fun. Let's go into the starting locations as well for Tiktak'to. The Vortex campaign has Tiktak'to starting in the western jungles. This is, of course, south of the Gulf of Meads and west of the Red Rivers. Now, this kind of poses an interesting situation because we already see Tlaqua on the current map of things. So it looks like they're shrinking down the overall starting portion of Tlaqua, and this is, of course, just north of Zlatlan. So there will be some Lizardman allies to the south that he can ally up with. You can see Krokgar will be, of course, in the Kingdom of Beasts still. Queek Headtaker to the south. You'll have plenty of Tomb Kings to the north. You'll have some Empire to the north. You'll have some Wood Elves and Dwarfs to the far east. And vampires spattered around the rest of the desert. Now, there's a really cool kind of lore connotation here. There was really old kind of, I guess you could say, White Dwarf campaign. It was a summer campaign in which Lizardmen were sieging the city of Antok. And Antok, well, I mean, it's Antioch if you want to think of it that way. Antok was a Bretonnian-controlled city that was kind of established by Crusader Knights that failed in their conquest of, or not conquest of Lustria, but I guess their errantry war into Lustria. They established Antok, and really the Gulf just north of here, in the land of dervishes is where it is. On the actual campaign map, you would see it as an elven ruin, even though Antok was not an elven ruin. So I don't think that we'll ever see Antok added into the game. Maybe we'll see that when the game kind of goes live and we see some settlements that have been changed around for both Mortal Empires and Vortex campaign. But it is kind of a cool little nod here to see Lizardmen so close to this kind of fabled lore entry of Antok. And the way that summer campaign played out is that if you were for the Lizardmen, then you were trying to get the Staff of Jade, which was hidden in the city of Antok, and if you were for the Bretonnians, you were of course trying to defend that city. So in those summer campaigns, you typically chose a side, and the side had certain armies you would ally with, or I'm sorry, you would like, sorry, let me backstep here. Each side had armies that were allied into that side. So for instance, the Lizardmen's attacking forces also had the Dark Elves allied with it, even though the Dark Elves and Lizardmen aren't like, oh yeah, we're the best of pals. And the Bretonnians had the High Elves allied in with them, and the Dwarves and stuff like that. So you're the usual defenders of man. So it was a kind of an interesting campaign that didn't really kind of come much to anything. Most of those narrative summer campaigns that Games Workshop used to run back in the day never really panned out because people either didn't submit their entries, or there was such a one-sided force alignment that it's like, oh, everyone was order or everyone was destruction, and it just didn't pan out how they wanted it to. Tangent aside, let's get back on track. So we've now covered the Vortex campaign. We've seen all the kind of areas and allies that can be around Tiktak'to, but let's jump on over to the Mortal Empires. And the Mortal Empires map it's very sparse by comparison. You know, the Vortex campaign map is very dense. There's so much around him. There's Lizardmen, there's Tomb Kings, there's Skaven, there's Wood Elves, there's Dwarfs. Mortal Empires is very different. Now, of course, this is the Great Desert of Araby, far to the south, next to the land of dervishes. We don't get the southern portion of the Southlands in the Mortal Empires, but we're right next to the land of assassins. So Arkham the Black is going to be right there. The land of the dead and the Great Mortis Delta is right there. So we're going to have Cetra the Imperishable. But that's the only two factions that are really close to Tiktak'to, and that'll be very annoying to deal with if you don't put them down quickly. Mid to late game, Tomb Kings are just infuriating because they build stacks so quickly, and like as soon as you wipe them out, there's 2-3 stacks right back at the capital waiting for you. So this will be interesting because the closest ally you've got is again in the Kingdom of Beasts on the other side of the Southland World's Edge Mountains. So you have to go quite a way to find 2 Lizardmen factions, let alone 1. Now, of course, there are the NPC factions that are kind of dotted to the eastern portions of it. I think Heart of the Jungle is still Orion, and Shifting Sands, I believe, has another NPC Lizardman faction. But for the most part, you're going to be very sparse. And if you want to do any kind of co-op campaign or versus campaign, your only real close opponents, aside from the Skaven, are going to be Tomb Kings, if not the Beastmen. So it's going to be a very interesting Mortal Empires campaign for Tiktak'to, I think. But let's jump on over to some other goodies here with the actual stream information to go into some of the actual stat profiles of Tiktak. As we look at this stream that they did earlier here, we'll take a look at Master of the Skies, which gives Skink Heroes start with Pterodons, Right of Zunki, which resets the campaign movement range of all armies and characters when performed, campaign line of sight plus 25%, and Pterodons gain a unique battle ability. So obviously, again, this is really gearing towards Tiktak'to, focusing heavily on the Pterodons, on the Ripperdactyls, which are, of course, the new unit that has come alongside the Prophet and the Warlock DLC pack. See Wheels and Tom there just kind of having at it. Oh, a lovely drink, huh, Tom? Delightful. But I'm actually kind of excited for this. I'm excited to see a different kind of way of playing the Lizardmen, because usually it focuses so heavily on the Saurus and so heavily on that ability to kind of always just be on the ground. But having this kind of a air harassment, air superiority type character, I find it to be a little bit more fun or a little bit more endearing, just a different way to play. We have 3 new suitable climates for him. It's Savanna, Desert, and Jungle. These will play pretty heavily into the starting location of Tiktak'to as well in Tlaqua, which is, of course, in those Southlands here. Um, I just realized that Tom's cup has a dick butt on it. But as you can see, Tlaq'to here is in those western jungles. They've already kind of expanded out already. This is turn 44, so we get a really good idea of how really Tiktak'to is going to play into this greater campaign. We can see some stuff here with the capital. You can see Sudenburg is actually where I thought those elven ruins were. So there you go. Sudenburg is where Antok would be as far as the lore maps are concerned. Sudenburg is in the lore as well. It's like a penal colony, so it's not like it's completely forsook. But in a little bit, they're going to go into the actual skills, but I guess I'll use this time to talk a little bit more about this campaign presence here. I am excited to see where you start out in this. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Oh, let me cut myself off. Let's talk about this. So we can see that the drop sphere of Teapot is one of his actual first abilities here. The Mask of Heavens, of course, at the very top there. Agility of the Lizard, Protection of the old ones. And this is, of course, small strike area, typical kind of thing that we see from the bombardment abilities of the rocks of other pterodons, but it looks to do a lot more damage. Precision Strike increases leadership and melee attack when attacking for the Lord's entire army, which is a really cool little ability there. Oh, Jesus. We get Fearless Leader, which increases his charge bonus, his hit points. Aerial superiority increases speed, ammunition, and physical resistance for pterodon rivers and ripperdactyls, which is pretty nice, right? 10% physical resistance for both those units is pretty good. In addition to that, you get some nice ammunition bonuses, so you get a little bit more, again, well, air superiority. Ares Finesse increases recruitment rank, casualty replenishment rate, and missile damage for pterodon rivers and ripperdactyls as well, playing heavily into that as well. Skink Commander, hero capacity for skinks, and the recruitment rank for skink chiefs. But moving back onto the Ares Finest until they move on here, this is kind of plays heavily into that overall, I guess, focus on those pterodons and on those ripperdactyls. We also get an upgraded version of the drop rock as well. That's going to be nice to see. But a lot of really cool perks that we're going to be getting with Tiktak'to. All right, let's take a look at his stats here as well. We can see that he drop sphere of Teapot is there. The new ability for Tiktak'to to kind of end the rampage of his units is in there as well. Blade of the Ancient Skies, which increases weapon damage and armor piercing, as well as melee attack for the skink chieftain here. He also has some physical resist, some magic resist, and some melee resist. He does, of course, have his encourage because he's, a lord. But missile resist 15 and physical resist 20% is pretty awesome for this little guy. And I'll be totally honest with you guys, I'm actually pretty excited for this. I think that a lot of people are really upset to not see Gorak or Nakai. But one thing that C.A. Rich was telling me when I was at Creative Assembly over the past weekend, and of course it's nothing cool. He didn't give me like the, hey, up next is this thing. He didn't give me anything cool like that. But what he did say was, I read a lot of the Reddit posts, I read a lot of like the YouTube comments, and there's just one thing I wish I could say to people is that, like, if there's something that is your favorite in Warhammer that was released with Warhammer, there's plenty of game left to get around to it. And that like kind of like sent like shivers up my spine. I was like, ooh, what is he talking about? I hope it's elf griffins. And so there's a lot of possibilities for things, right? It really opens the door to tell you that there's more Lord packs to come if Gorak and Nakai are not there. Mainly Gorak. Nakai is not as pivotal as Gorak in my opinion. I think the whole like Nakai love is a little weird because I think that Nakai is so obscure or so minor in the lore for the Lizardmen compared to how badass Gorak is, especially in the end times, man. Like just a lizard alone against a legion of Skaven. I just really enjoy Gorak's character, his story. So that tells us that there are so many more options for Lizardmen in the future, that they're not dead after this DLC pack, and that there's a future for them. What that means, I'm not really sure. But ultimately, what I think it comes down to is that this is the first stop in the Total War Warhammer 2 DLC for Lizardmen. Everything else has gotten Lord packs, FLC packs, portions of it included in its campaign pack, like an FLC, and for the Kraken Lord with the campaign pack for Vampire Coast. There's so many more things now that can be done to Lizardmen, and this kind of opens that door. So if you are disappointed in Tiktak'to, I'm so sorry, but it tells me that there are so many things to come with Tiktak'to and for the Lizardmen and for Skaven too, right? The only Skaven we've gotten is Tretch Craventail. So this is really, really, really going to ramp up, I think, both these races in the months to come leading up to whenever Total War Warhammer 3 is both announced and released. So If you're looking for Gorak or Nakai, hang in there. I'm sure they're going to be in here somewhere down the line. If not Gorak before Tiktak'to, but we'll see, I guess. But overall, guys, I'm stoked to see Tiktak'to in the game. We were not shown him, and none of the ever-chosen competitors were shown who the FLC Lord was. It was just said, like, yeah, you'll find out when you find out. We're like, well, damn it, we want the secrets. So I'm stoked to see him in here. I think it makes for a very different playstyle for the Lizardman, and I think it's going to be a playstyle that's going to be very fun in competitive multiplayer too. We'll see how his stats really pan out as far as his raw ability. He doesn't have the most stalwart of defense. I think from what I understand, his defense actually goes down when he lands into combat. So staying or keeping him in the air and fighting is of course more preferred versus landing him, from what I understand. He does have quite a bit of melee defense and armor in the air, and I didn't really get a chance to see what that dropped to when he lands. But he has a pretty good starting weapon strength of 400 some weapon strength with AP, so he does have the characteristics of a really good possible assassin or a way to deal with flying characters. And that's something I've always talked about, right? Is that the Lizardmen struggle with air superiority, but now with the induction of both the Ripperdactyls and with Tiktak'to in a competitive multiplayer scenario, we saw this in the Everchosen too, with Pterodon's Ripperdactyls being used to rip apart 2 black dragons. One, of course, having Malekith on top of it. So I think this opens the door for a lot of fun and different and diverse Lizardman play that I honestly think they need. If we added Gorak or Nakai with this, what will we get? Just another big Saurus on foot? Like, I think that this is the kind of spice that we need before we go back to the tried and true way of playing Lizardman. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video here today. If you have any questions, comments, maybe you're just pissed off and you want to vent, please, by all means, guys, let me know in the comment section below. But have a good one and take care.